Hello, I'm back. So I haven't really spoken to my mother since last week, so that's good. Trying to I'm not abruptly saying like, "Oh, fuck you, I don't want to see you again, goodbye," because obviously there's going to be a big backlash from that. So more like just kind of slowly phasing it out. Um as I've said in the past, I've been watching a lot of narcissism videos on YouTube and just looking at the videos and some of the comments in the videos, someone made a comment about something, and it really got me thinking about the narcissist's preoccupation with status, or sort of like preserving the legacy, or like family lineage, or making everything you do is a reflection on them, and they sort of come up with these class divisions in their head that don't really apply to the real world or anything, but in their head they think they do. Like, as I was saying with my wedding, how my mother kind of, when she was trying to break my husband and I up, she told me that I was marrying down, like he was lower class than I was, and kind of taking things that his brother said and twisting them around. Like, we live in I guess it's an upper middle class neighborhood where I grew up, but the town next door has less money, so it's more, I guess, on average lower middle class, and then our town was like upper middle class. And it was, going to school was always kind of like the running joke, like the difference between the two towns. And my mom was saying, well, there's a house down the street, or there's a development over there. It's not fancy, but my brother-in-law was joking around. He's like, oh, you mean there's a non-fancy street in this neighborhood? Like our neighborhood was so fancy, and it's really not. But, like, I guess what he considers fancy is like mediocre, and what my mom, it's not fancy to my mother unless it's Beverly Hills, or the Hamptons or something, whatever. So she, then afterwards, when my husband and brother-in-law were gone, she was telling me, oh yeah, do you remember what he said about, oh, there's a non-fancy street in this neighborhood, and these aren't all fancy houses? And that just goes to show you the difference in perspective between us and his family, and what you're from and what he's from. And then going into, like, again, like the education and all that bullshit, and taking one comment from my brother-in-law and spinning it like, you're up here, they're down here. She told me once that I was marrying down. Well, you're from this, and you're from... And it's just ironic, too, because all she tells me my whole life is that nothing I do is good enough, and how I'm completely socially inept, and everything I do somehow makes the whole family look bad because I blew my nose into a tissue at the wrong time, and it's a bad reflection on her, if I'm sick, or I show that I'm sick, or, I say, she's still, like, apparently I'm a social retard, and she still holds, like, things I've said or done that are apparently socially inept. Things that happened years ago, she still brings it up, like, just every little thing, she doesn't let it go, because, like, every little thing, I guess, is a reflection on her, and what her, and it's like she takes it personally, like, if I fuck up, it's like a diss on, like, her grandparents or something. It's totally retarded. But yeah, taking one thing my brother-in-law said and making it like it's this whole class division between myself and him. And another thing, too, for the wedding is, I did a cake tasting, and I went to the bakery one day and I picked up samples with different cake and filling combinations, and I brought the samples back to my house, and I tasted some. My husband, I brought some to my mother, because they gave us a lot, there was a lot of extra, and I mentioned to my mother that there was one I really liked. It was like chocolate with raspberry filling or something like that, and my husband was like less of a fan of. So I just said that. I was like, yeah, I really liked this. He wasn't so much a fan of this. And then, just an example of how a narcissist, they will steer a conversation off topic. and bring in something that's only marginally related and steer a conversation off topic because they're that desperate to push their agenda. Like, she starts saying, oh, well, you know, how much my aunt baked and how much my grandmother baked and all the holidays at their house, how much food was there and how much, you know, how many different kinds of desserts, and I've been exposed to a lot more than he has because my grandmother made Linzer tarts, which I've only tasted like twice in my life, so I don't think that has any influence on me liking raspberry jelly in a cake. But she took a conversation about, it kind of implying that because my aunt and my grandmother baked, that means we're a higher class than my husband's family. Because I guess apparently they're real trash and they can't even put two ingredients together. If it's not fast food, they're not going to eat it, apparently. This is where he comes. So she's using a conversation about cake filling and taking it off topic and twisting it to try to drill into my head how low class my husband is, because him not liking a certain cake filling is showing of like I've been exposed to so much more high class food than he has, and that he's low class. Meanwhile, it's fucking cake. You know, everybody eats cake, everybody eats cookies. The woman is she's not in reality. And she does this too, where she brings in something unrelated to the conversation to try to push her agenda or get a put down in, even though it's not related to the conversation, but in her head it is related to the conversation. She's just taking it off topic because she's that desperate to push her agenda. I mean, she's done this other times too. And then she's always talking, you know, and I went into my wedding too about the Catholic Church and how I didn't want to get married in a church and we didn't, but like I was just disgracing the entire family lineage by not doing that. And she'd even say to me, she's like, well, if your grandfather was alive, you'd be getting married in a church. You know, like I'm stabbing all these dead people in the back, basically. And she, you know, it's not just my father too. 9 times out of 10, the woman is a complete man-hater. I mean, men in general, it's clear she's got serious issues. She just does not like men. Unless you are related to her by blood. One of her brothers, her father, uncles, cousins. Don't they all just walk across the water like Jesus Christ? Oh my God. They can do no wrong. You know, one of them could beat me up, and I'd be in the wrong. Because the men in her family, they're like the second coming of Christ. They could do no wrong. They walk on water. They're like the standard of how everyone morally and ethically should be. But anything else with a penis, God help you. Because she just does not like men. 99.9% of men could go to hell. It's just the ones that are related to her by blood can do no wrong whatsoever. You know, they can murder somebody and it's the victim's fault. It's just, it's so sick. And she's the first one. She talks in general like this about her upbringing and how great it was and how great her parents were and her father was so great and how her siblings are all so perfect, her family was so perfect. And then she's the first one to look for reasons to criticize anybody else. Anybody else, over the most petty bullshit. I mean, my father's family, my father's been out of the picture for 20 years, like, she still kind of rips them apart and compares, like, how her family is better, how her upbringing was better than their upbringing, and my grandmother, my father's mother, she was an alcoholic, I've talked about this in my other videos, but she died in the 80s, and my mother still rips this woman apart. Just, let it go. Like, again, like, bashing on my father from shit that happened 20, 30 years ago. Just, she's never been able to let anything go, and I'm sick of it. But yeah, the still ragging on about my grandmother, how awful she was, and, and she's been dead for 30 years, and she's still, and even things too, she'll talk to me about a woman who's supposed to be her friend, or a woman she works with, and, oh, well, this one did this, and this one did that, and then she'd pass judgment on that person's family and their upbringing based on something that they did that she didn't like or she found offensive or she thought like wasn't a social norm or not proper etiquette. And like insinuating almost like that they're like a class level below her, or she was just raised so much better, her upbringing was so great, and you know, just so critical of other people. But if someone from her family did the same thing, it would be the other person's fault, or there'd always be a justification for it, like if her brother acted that way or her sister. And I remember one Christmas, we went to my uncle's house, and like I was saying, my mother's side of the family is Italian. My father's side isn't, but my mother says, like, because he's been out of the picture a while, it's really like I'm 100%, but, yeah, no, it's total bullshit. And, you know, and she makes nasty comments about other nationalities in front of me, stuff that I am, you know, like, you know, Irish, she loves to rip apart, you know, to my face, you know, I mean, my grandmother was Irish, you know, on my other side, and, she's like, oh, well, she died when you were 2, and you didn't really have a relationship with her, so she doesn't really count. Just like, horrible, you know, so anyway, you know, you go to Christmas at these people's house, you know, my mom's family, and I like food just as much as the next person, you know, maybe not as much as like a 300-pound person, like my uncle before he had the stroke, but the amount of food is absolutely disgusting. I mean, just between the snacks and the hors d'oeuvres alone, and the amount of desserts they have, that's probably enough food right there, and maybe like a salad, you know, but this is like a ton of hors d'oeuvres, a ton of desserts, a filet mignon, you know, which is a nice dinner, and like a vegetable, mashed potatoes, whatever, that's fine. And a lasagna as like an extra appetizer. So some years I would eat the lasagna and some years I wouldn't, just because some years I just don't have room in my stomach, you know, and then one year I didn't eat it, and people making nasty comments to me like I'm this like crazy anorexic because I just wasn't in the mood for a 4-course meal. I only ate 3 of 4 courses. I must have an eating disorder. So, you know, nothing can happen if the lasagna is not there. Okay? So, there was a million hors d'oeuvres. And, you know, my Uncle Mike was supposed to bring the lasagna when he was like, oh yeah, my wife's making it, I'm gonna bring it, And then he's, you know, because it's, it must be a written law somewhere that you have to have the lasagna X amount of hours or X amount of minutes before you eat the steak. So if there's no lasagna, the steak is on hold. I don't even know. So my uncle says, you know, I'm gonna be late. I have to stop somewhere. I got to go to so and so's house. And then my other uncle's getting pissed at him, like, how dare he go somewhere else? And how dare he go visit someone else on Christmas when he's got the lasagna? He's holding everybody up. Which meanwhile, like, you could have it, you could make the fucking steak and have it alongside the steak. Like, no one's gonna care, but I guess that means that they're not gonna be able to eat as much food, and then their Christmas will be ruined. So there was like this whole, and he had told my other uncle this before Christmas, saying, like, listen, I'm gonna be late, and the other guy's getting pissed over a fucking lasagna that he's gonna be late. And, you know, and this conversation, I guess, was a few days before Christmas. So my mother was talking about it, like there was this whole drama over a lasagna for days before Christmas. And I called my mother out on this. I was like, Ma, you criticize Dad's side of the family for their petty bullshit. You criticize your own friends over shit like this, okay? And your brothers are behaving this way over a fucking lasagna, and you're gonna tell me that this is normal? And she said to me, she's like, well, they settled it, and I was very proud of the way my brothers handled it. You fucking kidding me? Like, the way she's speaking about this, I mean, she does this with everything. She makes issues into 10 times what they are. I was very proud of the way my brother... It shouldn't have been an argument in the first place. It's a fucking lasagna. Who cares? And I was very proud of the way they handled it. Like, they walk on water. They're so morally superior. And like it's $1 million estate in the will. And they're doing the honorable thing, and one's giving it to this person, they're splitting it, it's like this $1 million estate. The way she's talking about it, like, I was very proud of my brothers. Give me a break. Oh my god. And, you know, if that had been anybody else, if we had gone to somebody else's house at Christmas, and the same thing happened, she'd still be going on about it today. Like 5 years later, she'd still be carrying on about it, like how they're low class, and they're this, and they're that. If that was anybody else, forget it. I mean, you know, but, again, like, she'll criticize anybody over the most minor thing and make judgments on their upbringing and their, you know, where they're coming from, and, you know, but her brothers and her family, they can get away with any fucking thing they want, and she'll excuse them, it's the other person's fault, and everything I do has to be, like, a reflection of her and what she wants other people to think of her. I read some comments, too, in some of these videos I was watching about how somebody will be sick, usually the child will be sick, they'll have a cold or a cough, and then they'll go somewhere, and the parent will be like, oh, try not to cough. Don't blow your nose. Don't let so-and-so know that you're sick, because then they'll think I'm a bad parent, or they'll think, you know, you're depressed and I'm a bad parent. So, like, they'll drag you somewhere sick, and it's like, you still have to put on the front. It's just totally, like, disgusting. I can't, like, just seeing this stuff on other videos, other people's comments, it's just very triggering, you know, because there's a lot that you forget, after kind of being away from it for years, you're out of your childhood for a while, and then you'll read something, or someone will comment like, oh yeah, that happened to me too, you know, don't cough, don't sneeze, you know, because that's a reflection on her. And then I told her a couple of weeks ago that I was going on a job interview, this woman recruiter called me or whatever. She's like, well, if you're gonna get interviewed by a woman, I'd take a different purse than that. Like, she can't... Any little thing that she could scrutinize, it's almost like she gets to a point where she runs out of material. So she's got to nitpick, like, the littlest bullshit. Oh, well, if you're gonna go on an interview, if a woman's interviewing you, I wouldn't bring that purse. Yeah. So, you know, I doubt, like, 9 times out of 10, no one cares what purse you're carrying, unless you bring a purse that says, like, fuck you, really loud in big letters, and people have other things to think about, you know, unless I'm interviewing for, like, a fashion editor job, which God knows I'm not. But, yeah, just, like, that was, someone made, I don't know if it was a video or just someone's comment, it was just really triggering about the whole, everything they do and how they live their life is based upon what other people think and how other people perceive them. And they criticize you for things that they think are like the most important things and are gonna make or break you, that nobody even gives a shit about, or most normal people don't. And maybe that might be another topic for another video, how there seems to be a strong correlation between narcissism and OCD. I've seen this a lot. Almost every narcissist I've come across, there's been, like, a strong OCD tendency. And, yeah, I'll be continuing to make videos. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm slowly doing the no contact thing. I've sort of, you know, I don't want to do, like, oh, fuck you, I don't want to see you anymore, because that's just going to make more backlash, but I'm just sort of slowly slipping away, so I'll keep you posted on that. And I'll see you on the next video.